Hi everyone and welcome to All About Space with me, Christophe Paget. As the private rocket industry is booming, Europe has seen a very large number of rocket manufacturers founded in the last 10 years. As the topic was rather heavy, I have split this video in three parts. Part 1 and 2 are linked to the description or on the top right corner of your screen. I strongly advise you to go and watch them after this episode. This episode will focus on the following topics: business model, ambitions, and closing remarks. Surviving in this sector is directly linked to your business model to attract your customers in a stable and durable fashion. Let's take the example of Virgin Orbit, a subsidiary of Virgin Group dedicated to bringing light payloads to LEO using what is called horizontal takeoff based on a modified Boeing 747. Virgin Orbit failed to reach orbit after taking off from Cornwall in the UK and went into administration straight after. Financial health is key, but the business model showing how to make money was lacking, which is why investors stopped pouring money into the company. We do not have all the elements to show you all companies' business model, so I refrain from speculating and will focus on what we have available instead. RFA based their business model on a medium-sized launcher to reduce the price per kilogram to orbit and use off-the-shelf cheap parts from the automotive industry, including metal sheet used for building the rocket stages. They are banking on continuously improving the helix engine chamber pressure from 100 bars to 300 bars, allowing lengthening the rocket and therefore increasing payload weight to further reduce the cost per kilogram. Adding to that, the Stage 1 reusability will inevitably keep the launch cost down to the minimum. RFA has strong financial backers such as KKR, a leading global investment firm, and OHB, a leading satellite manufacturer, which will support the development cost and guarantee payloads. They start small with a focus on one launch pad near them and will grow the other markets via Kourou at the later stage. Finally, they are using a kick stage from the onset to offer more payload capabilities to their customers with a small price tag. ESA Aerospace's business model is based on optimizing the parts for performance, using expensive composite materials but light materials and even hand layup manufacturing process, and are gradually moving to automated layup of their pressure vessels to get the best compromise between performance and unit cost of launch for better payload costs per kilogram. Now, they also believe that non-recurring development cost is greatly reduced when having in-house vertical integration capability, meaning that they are testing everything in-house, reducing the lead times and test cost too. They also use additive layer manufacturing to reduce complex molds and produce more optimized parts, and that includes their engines. They are aiming at competing with the likes of Rocket Lab Electron rocket market on both routes, sun-synchronous and equatorial orbit markets. Now, since this third episode, Spectrum's maiden flight took place and unfortunately failed, which is not so surprising in the rocket industry. At the moment, Avio is still in a honeymoon period with Arianespace and ESA, as the Ukrainian-Russian war forced Roscosmos and Soyuz to stop delivering such services for Europe, which Avio has tried to cash in on such a monopoly, but started slowly due to the Vega-C engine issue. Now, that monopoly will last until sometime in 2026, when other providers will come into play. Moreover, Avio has successfully managed to free itself from ESA and Arianespace ties and will therefore offer services to other customers, increasing their revenues to be more competitive. And finally, Avio benefits from really experienced staff with proven and powerful rockets and already gets paid for rockets to reinforce their business model. Moreover, ESA is investing in the future of Avio Vega family, as it has just provided an additional funding for Avio to continue working on his Vega-E rocket. Ion Group has the guarantee to get European customers for heavy satellites or rideshare missions, although Europe had to recently hire the services of SpaceX Falcon 9 to send the famous EarthCare, Galileo, and Copernicus Sentinel-6C satellites. Ion 6 is a heavy launcher, about 40% cheaper compared to Ion 5, which strengthens Ion Group business model further. Luckily, Ion Group is investing to get reusability on their rockets to further reduce their launch costs, thanks to Themis or SUSE projects, but it will take a considerable amount of time for them to reach their aim. High Impulse intends to launch from three places: Kourou, Saxoport, and Andoya, which to me is a bad idea, diluting their capital into so many launch sites. They have the technology support from DLR and financial backing from IABG in Germany. However, they are using traditional processes and materials, giving them the edge to be more competitive than the rest, to the risk of having a rocket not performant enough. High Impulse intend to focus on small payloads with the small launcher SL1, but also wishes to continue running their sounding rockets SR-75, which they successfully flew in Australia in May 2024. They intend to bring the small rocket launch down by using a less costly engine and reuse the first stage. During an interview by NSF, Christian Schmerer, the High Impulse CEO, was emphasizing that most competitors do not succeed in being profitable with a small launcher and move therefore to bigger rockets. High Impulse business model lies around cheaper rocket costs, but also acknowledges that the price per kilogram to orbit will be $18 per kilogram, with the ambition to reduce it to $7 per kilogram, about 15 to 30% more expensive than rideshare missions. So why persist? Well, Christian believes that customers who do not like sharing the ride with other satellites in the event of one satellite is late, all others will have to wait in order to launch, would allow High Impulse to still launch payloads for a higher price per kilogram and still attract risk-adverse customers and make their company viable. Moreover, by using paraffin fuel, it allows other customers to invest and have the rocket launched in their country of choice, since paraffin is available anywhere around the world and the launch infrastructure is greatly simplified, especially for military customers, as ABL recently did. From the mouth of the CEO is that they do not know whether they can produce a 15-meter long hybrid engine and reservoir combined. He also does not know whether High Impulse can scale up thrust significantly from that of the sounding rocket SR-75 to the required thrust to weight ratio of the SL-1. It's worrying to still be at that crossroad full of uncertainties when they intend to launch SL1 in 18 to 24 months from now. Orbex has realized rather late that building a brand new spaceport and a rocket at the same time is capital and resources hungry, where another £15 million was required to complete the spaceport, according to Phil Chambers, Orbex CEO. I'm glad that they have finally realized, hopefully not too late, that they need to use existing spaceport infrastructures from Saxoport so that they can concentrate their funding to develop a profitable launcher instead. The launcher they have in the works is not the most competitive option out there. The launcher is rather small, but so is their payload mass to orbit, comparable to that of hyperspace, Latitude, or even Sirius, but much smaller than all others. So they have no real weapon to fight against European competition, let alone worldwide competition, especially with the level of funding that the neighboring launch companies have been attracting. So what Orbex decided to do is to refocus funding and look for ESA European Launch Challenge funding to also develop a bigger rocket capable of competing in the European market, requiring at least to halve their price per kilogram payload with an expected 8 tons payload mass to LEO. They are focusing their effort on performance with large amounts of composite material used and 3D printed engines, therefore higher recurring costs than the competition for similar payload weights. However, their first stage is planned to be reusable and therefore may improve their business model until the development of their bigger rockets to remain competitive and stay in business for long term. So all will depend on their larger rocket development, for which we have no information yet. Prime is still targeting for end of this year, according to its CEO, with the permission to launch up to 10 rockets per year from the Shetlands, whilst their business model was based on 24 launches per year, meaning also that the Sutherland spaceport would allow bridging the gap at a later stage. Hyperspace has a similar business model as for high impulse, where a cheap engine is the driving force to extract a relatively low price per kilogram. So far, their ambition is to stick to small payloads and therefore small rockets. Their payload performance is similar to many other European rockets, and therefore they face huge competition as it stands today. So they really need to reduce their rocket recurring costs and focus on bringing reusability as early as possible to have a promising future. Moreover, they have just passed their preliminary design review for both their suborbital Baguette 1 and orbital Baguette 1 rockets. This strikes me as a bad idea because they are increasing their development cost and time by 2, and secondly, they would not learn from the suborbital rocket to improve the design and economics of the orbital rocket version. So good luck, hyperspace, with your challenging task, and hope your business model sticks and that you will have a bright future ahead of you. PLD has a massive appetite with his Mura Next Heavy and Super Heavy, but they cautiously started with Mura 1 to learn how to make a rocket, so that Mura 5 is a better rocket with better economics. Now, the payload weight is attractive enough on Mura 5 and is first stage reusable to have a reduced European competition down to just Maya Space, ISA Aerospace, and even RFA. Perhaps by focusing on only one spaceport, PLD would minimize their outgoings and keep low operating costs, although they have just signed an agreement to operate a new spaceport at Etlak in Oman. PLD has now filled up to 80% of its launch order book until 2027, which is very promising business. So congratulations to PLD. Latitude has attracted several stakeholders to fund their development costs. They have also got their first paying customers, despite the fact that not much has been published on the rocket performance and progress. Good work by their marketing team. It is difficult to extract a business model from this company. The rocket is similar to Orbex, Skyrora, or Hyperspace in terms of payload mass. It is not clear if they use composite or metal skins on this rocket, or component off the shelves, or bespoke components seeking performance or low cost. They are on the crowded end of the spectrum with many European competitors with similar performance. Hopefully, as they progress their design, they would share more information on this. Sorry, that's all I have to give you today. Skyrora has been championing environmental practices in its design. They are using processed recycled plastic to produce the fuel of their rockets, a selling point many satellite companies would rather use to launch into space and claim CO2 reduction. The rest of Skyrora rocket is rather similar as for Latitude, Orbex, or Hyperspace. However, Skyrora might not be progressing as fast as they could due to the fact that they have been developing many rockets, therefore diluting their funds and resources. However, one possible strength, which is not exploited yet, is the ability to launch from a mobile platform their suborbital rocket, Skyrora L, which often attracts the military sector, as we have recently seen with ABL in the USA. Scarora recently explained that being one of the first European rocket manufacturers was very frustrating when dealing with the UK CAA to acquire their launch license. Today, they are still waiting for it, which was the main reason why they launched their suborbital rockets from Iceland in the first instance. Maya Space has a stronger financial backing from Ariane Group to fill the gap created by having to stop Soyuz and the low rate of Vega launches. Although Avio Vega-C will run independently from Ariane Group, Maya may further fill that gap, which will weaken Avio and strengthen Maya. They intend to compete with the economics of SpaceX Falcon 9, which is a tested business model worth copying, but with a small impact considering the launch cadence of SpaceX. The words of the CEO are Maya Space's business model has been built from the very beginning on the utilization of two launcher versions, expendable and reusable, for the development cost of one. Moreover, they are including from day one a kick stage called Colibri to add 1-ton payloads on top and more orbits per launch. His CEO also emphasized that all trade offs are focusing on launching early rather than optimizing the rocket, an ingredient for success to my mind. We do not have long to wait to see what they can do. The maiden flight is planned for late this year. Siderius is a very small company which has attracted so far a very small amount of funds, which may limit their ambitions. Despite the fact that EOS does not go very high and only carries a small payload, the simplicity of their design and full reusability of the craft may make this rocket a useful tool for universities or research labs interested in using, for example, Virgin Galactic for microgravity tests, and Siderius also bolster their rapid response for future customers, which in itself might be a key selling point. They might well succeed in getting a low price per kilogram for microgravity experiments compared to the prices of Virgin Galactic and New Shepard of Blue Origin. Sirius starts with a very clear strategy that Sirius 1 is the pathfinder of the company. As a pathfinder, the rocket has similar capabilities as Orbex Prime. It is unclear yet if they intend to use composite for performance or metal for cost effectiveness. That pathfinder is expected to have a reusable first stage. Part of their business model includes two bigger rockets, the Sirius 13 based on three Sirius 1 first stages, and the Sirius 15 based on five Sirius 1 first stages. Similarly as Falcon Heavy and Mura Next Super Heavy. Sirius anticipates having a 100% reusable rocket on the long term, which will undoubtedly bring the cost per kilogram payload down and attract investors too. This is a company to watch and see if they deliver on such challenging promises. Many of these companies have presented their ambitions of next generation rockets, starting with PLD Space. They have the aim of developing Mura Next, a medium launcher, but also Mura Next Heavy and Super Heavy, reaching colossal payload masses to orbit, and even wish to develop a human rated capsule. So that is a long term ambition, and hopefully they get the cash for it. Sirius showed similar ambitions. Through Ariane Group, we see the next generations of the Maya rockets growing in size, despite the fact it is not advertised as a Maya rocket as yet, a rather secretive future. Avio has just been awarded funding from the Italian government under the National Recovery and Resilience Plan to advance the successor of not only the Vega-C but also the Vega-E rocket called the Vega Next. This demonstrator is expected to fly towards the end of 2025. A second demonstrator is also expected by the end of 2026. Other European companies may have similar ambitions but did not advertise for it. Rocket design is hard, and technological success is sometimes difficult to achieve. But once that obstacle is passed, Staying in business is equally, if not more, difficult. Take, for example, Virgin Orbit, the latest victim of it. So, the company's business model is what makes or breaks their future, especially in light of recent growing competition within Europe, let alone worldwide. This episode was more business driven and should enlighten you on the vital ingredients these companies have selected to compete in this hard market. But I do recommend you to watch the previous two episodes, which you will find in the descriptions. Some of these companies have advertised such a huge ambition, which in no doubt will turn into cash when they continue delivering on their promises and perhaps will achieve some of their goals in this lifetime. With the three episodes on the topic, you now have a comprehensive pack regarding these European companies and should have a better picture in this booming industry. Whether I have enriched your knowledge or motivated you to be the next rocket scientist, I hope you enjoyed the series on European rockets. Give it a like if you did, and do not hesitate to subscribe to not miss the next episodes. Thank you for watching and have a great day, and goodbye.